Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Robert Stickle. I'm also joined by my colleagues Jim Patterson and Paul Estabrooks. Jim and Paul will be today's presenters and will discuss the topic of aligning work execution with corporate strategy. This webinar is a new addition to our extensive library covering all manner of project and portfolio management topics. If you enjoyed this video, we welcome you to view the others we have available on our YouTube channel and also our website. And as always, I hope that today's presentation grants you some insight into the world of project and portfolio management and gets you excited for the new developments happening within the industry and here at OnePlan. Thank you again. I'll now turn the presentation over to Jim.
Thanks, Robert, and welcome everybody. We're excited to talk to you about our topic of the day of aligning work execution with corporate strategy. So let's get started. What's driving the need for this topic is the ongoing and for the foreseeable future digital transformation efforts that's happening that's making almost every business on some fashion a digital business. We see some examples of some of the key industries that have been impacted significantly by the digitization of those businesses. Even brick and mortar businesses have become software and digital businesses in their essence, in the way they deliver things to their customers. And it impacts all roles in an organization, from the executives who envision and implement and direct the strategies, through the people that have to execute on those things today. And aligning the strategy with the execution today is really the key component of what we're going to talk about here. What it is also driving is the need to get things done faster, to make decisions quicker, to be able to respond faster. To that end, organizations are doing what's called shifting to the left, becoming into a shift left model where they deliver things more quickly and more iteratively in smaller chunks or iterations, rather than the old big bang theory of the way we deliver projects in very discrete, large packages in the past. That move to get more nimble and fast is really to respond and be more competitive, and also to achieve customer satisfaction and meet the needs of the markets as they change. So the analysts, like the Gartner Group, have coined this term of strategic execution management. Last week, we did a webinar on strategic portfolio management, or SPM. Now, strategic execution management, coined as SEM, Gartner states is that executing strategy in the digital age requires tools connecting the shared objectives of the business strategists, being leadership, and those executing the change and measuring true business value. It's all about value these days. Program and portfolio management leaders directing this transformation should invest in strategy execution management to succeed, is Gartner's conclusion. Now, they see strategy execution as both a set of processes which involve people, strategy, and operations, but also see it as a system. And it's a system of both strategy development and planning, organizational alignment, having operational plans, monitoring and learning, and testing and adapting afterwards, so it forms the basis for increasing value being delivered by executing on the strategy. What we see there is synergy and alignment of all those things that ultimately help us achieve better success. Also from Gartner, in this market guide for strategy execution management software, sees this as both a set of processes and a system combined. And typical capabilities that are exemplified in those engaging in this are things like strategy visualization, being able to not only enumerate those things, but to have them visible and have that visualization available. Also having performance metrics or key performance indicators that we're going to talk about more today that report the progress of strategy results, the tangible achievement of things, of those anticipated strategies, and the anticipated plans and in-flight projects that are impacted or contribute to those. We also want to map strategy and metrics to future plans, in-flight projects, and in some cases, existing assets, products, or capabilities or services in an organization. And that goes back to what we talked about last week with strategic portfolio management. We also have to have the ability to monitor time and money against our resource constraints for plans, projects, and assets. We have to operate within the constraints that we have. And we also have to have a coordinated capability for monitoring both progress and performance of the in-flight projects and assets, because the performance of those have a direct correlation to whether or not we achieve what is set out in our strategies. Now, the key of benefits realization measurements is also key. on how well or not so well an investment is generating benefits. It impacts the thing because if it's not generating what we thought it was, we might want to redirect assets or focus on the things that are going to actually contribute true value to our organizations and to our customers. We also have to have the ability to align individual roles to the achievement of specific strategies, meaning we have to have the availability and the allocation of the right roles and people to the things that we think are most important or what most strategic for the organization. Now, in this shift towards strategic execution management, Gartner also says that executing strategy in the digital age requires tools connecting the shared objectives of the business strategists and those executing the change and measuring true business value. They also say that program and portfolio management leaders directing transformation should invest in strategy execution management to succeed in this new interrelated world where that becomes more paramount. Key findings they've had in this market guide for strategy execution was that digital business requires strategy execution management to be well honed and a repeatable internal capability. It should become part of our DNA and who we are and how we operate. Also, creating strategic change requires making effective decisions. Not only making effective decisions, but it has to be responsive with agility and responsiveness. And we should have unimpeded multi-directional communication up and down, from the strategists who are outlining and enumerating that strategy down through the people who are executing in the initiatives and the projects that help support that. Now, to date, most organizations in these transformations have relied on consulting firms and such to provide the focus and direction necessary to ensure that operational priorities do not overwhelm strategic imperatives. What that means is sometimes we have the strategic focus and direction, but the reality of day-to-day operations and the force of those and customer demands sometimes sidetrack us from the things of where we want to go. So we don't want to become so operational focused that we don't have time or focus to enable our strategies. So combining SEM activities with routine operations too early in the process sometimes results in failure, maybe being too ambitious. Good strategic execution management requires a dedicated effort to get those parts right before incorporating the operational piece. Now, in the recommendations from the Gartner study, is that to evolve portfolio and resource management, the leaders involved, whether it be project and portfolio leaders, EPMOs, et cetera, who need to optimize their value contribution towards strategic execution, should do the following. They should establish a framework for more fluid and continuous communication between their EPMOs and the business strategists, as the strategies now in this dynamic world will change faster over much more short increments of time, and we have to respond to those things. It's not like putting an annual strategy in place anymore and thinking that's going to remain static over time. We want to seek out SEM tools that support the continuous change of a complex adaptive system. So an adaptive system is key to be able to stay on top of these things and respond appropriately. And we need to implement end-to-end investment management, which includes investment planning, clear continuous communication through the execution, and the tracking of the investment performance. And all of these things, to track those things and remain current, is required for successful strategic execution management. And we should also design processes so information is captured as a normal flow of the operation, and even reporting to become a natural output of that process. And let's not have it over-engineered that we require people to enter unnecessary or superfluous data. We also want to focus on ease of use when selecting tools, because the combined usage of this will be from the executive level all the way down through the practitioners and the people that execute on these things. So it has to be easy and accessible and intuitive for the people that are going to interact with this on a day-to-day basis. So strategic execution management capabilities. Gartner listed some must-haves. Ease of use at the senior management level to get their buy-in and participation ongoing. Ability to capture free-form data around investments. Dynamic portfolio management, which is flexible and responsive. Flexible definition of a unit of investment. It could be people, it could be dollars, it could be other things. And effective measurements of results against intended business outcomes, meaning the metrics that we use should be accurately reflecting whether or not we're accomplishing the things we set out to do. Highly recommended or should have things are bidirectional strategic communications up and down the chain of command so that the organization stays in alignment. Overall good program management, so when we have interrelated things that initiatives and such, that contribute to an overall objective, that we execute those things in a coordinated program management function. And also be able to do scenario planning such that when situations on the ground change or in the market change, that we can actually analyze and assess different alternatives in managing our portfolios and our initiatives. And some required complementary capabilities that are highly sought after in SEM are resource capacity planning, because we have to do things within our constraints, strategic decision support so that we can make good informed decisions, business process tracking and redesign so we can adjust as things change over time, and asset repository, because oftentimes we're leveraging assets that we have and managing those things and determining their priority as we figure out what's of the highest priority in our organization. So OnePlan enables strategic execution management. And we talked last week about these major components in this Venn diagram of having strategy, execution, and the technology and the assets around that all interrelating for us to be able to provide this. And OnePlan not only provides solutions for this, we also provide some technology and expertise in this to help you adapt this into your journey, both from a people, process, and a technology perspective. So the business leaders are most interested in the strategic part of this, and we're going to talk about this next. Execution leaders have components that they need both from a process and a system perspective to help them execute on the initiatives that support the strategies that the business leaders are putting out with. And then we have technology and assets that our IT and product leaders manage as a component of things that we need to leverage or that we need to support or need to enable the other things that, that we're working on from a strategic and an execution perspective. So let's focus on the strategy piece next, with a business leader focus. And OnePlan offers different OnePlan strategic or strategy solutions. Today, we're going to focus on the objectives and key results, the strategy, execution, and identification. We could also, in an agile world, support value stream management and scaled agile framework, but today we're going to focus on the objectives and key results. And this is all about alignment. It's aligning your strategies, both short, mid and long term, down through your strategic portfolio, having maybe an operational portfolio in the mix, but all the way down through the execution and project management of the things that we should be doing that support those strategies. We should be aligning and making sure that we're not doing things that don't support the overall strategies and directions of the organization. So this objectives and key results approach that we're going to talk about, it's not new, but it is to many people a revolutionary approach to goal setting to make tough choices in business. And it started back in the 1970s with Intel, with their Intel management by objectives, and MBOs were all the rage back in that era. Later on in the 2000s, Google started to embed OKRs in the company culture around everything that they do. And now it's become so prevalent that organizations are beginning to embrace this across all different industries and major organizations everywhere. And what is an OKR? It's defined as objectives and key results. It's a management methodology that helps ensure that your company focuses on efforts on the same important issues throughout the organization, that we are in alignment as a company. So an objective is actually stating what it is you want to do from a strategic perspective. A key result is how you know if you've achieved it. Typically you want to have at least 3 key results for each objective. They should be measurable and they should be easy to grade based upon defined metrics, and they should describe outcomes, not activities, not that we did something, but that we achieved something. And we talk about alignment. There's things, to think about from a hierarchical perspective within an organization at different levels. John Doerr, who wrote Measure What Matters, which is considered the definitive book about this topic, says that a healthy OKR environment strikes a balance between alignment and autonomy. Common purpose, getting us rowing in the same direction, but also allowing enough room for creative latitude. Now, an executive OKR in a hierarchy might be focused on what is our strategic focus. A departmental level OKR may be how can we contribute to that company's strategy. And in the diagram below, we see that OKRs can get down strategic, tactical, even down to personal individual employee OKRs if you want to take it to that level. The idea is we want people to be in alignment and understand where we're all headed and rowing in the same direction. Now, OKR goal setting best practices might include some of these things. get buy-in. You want people involved and buying in so that we are executing on the same basis. Set a cadence which time boxes these objectives and key results. Some might be more near-term objectives, some might be longer term, some might be just for this year. The idea is to set those things and set your cadence on them. Begin with a small number just to get started with this and some clearly defined objectives, and then pair each objective with those key results. And then align whatever level of detail you get to, even if it's down to the employee OKRs with department and then ultimately up to the company OKRs. And then be transparent about your OKRs. We want people to understand where we stand. Are we doing well with this? Do we need to readjust or reassess? Do we need to focus our priorities elsewhere? And report progress regularly so we know where we stand, so we can make those decisions. Now, OnePlan provides pre-configured solutions for all of this that we're talking about conceptually, connecting that strategy all the way down to that execution. For example, we have an OKR solution that provides that type of visibility and helps you model your objectives and your key results very easily right within the solution. We also provide the ability to align your project and initiative portfolios with those strategies. So not only execute on this strategy well, but then align it with all the projects and initiatives that we have going on within the organization. We have that capability inherent within the OnePlan solution. So from a top down, OnePlan provides portfolio management, resource capacity planning, financial planning, and it incorporates the execution side of things where we might have work plans, both waterfall and agile types, ongoing status reports that are a natural output of the process to understand where we stand, and even updates from the team members, whether they be task updates or timesheets, and insights for people to understand how well we're doing or where we might be falling off track. Now, a strategic plan might have key results, and we want to take a look at what key results that are supporting our strategies might be doing well or might be falling off track, and even look at how they're trending. We might want to have easy update forms so that people can readily update the things we need to for that, or possibly even have key results coming from other systems. We'll talk about that in a second. We also want to have some visualizations. We might even use key results portfolio boards to understand how these things line up with organizations or different strategies and how they interrelate to one another. We might want to have reports that actually enumerate how we're doing to people that aren't in the system, reporting that says how we're doing on our objectives and our key results. Seeing which ones are doing better than others. And then really have this dovetail to the execution level with execution leaders. Now, we're not going to focus so much on this aspect of it today, but OnePlan also provides the execution solutions within the context of OnePlan as a whole, whether you be doing agile projects, whether it's more adaptive, where you have a mix of agile and more waterfall types of projects and hybrids thereof, whether it's professional services or even product portfolio management, and even just simple collaborative work management. All those things could possibly be supporting your strategies. And on the technology side, we have a webinar coming up next week, which we'll talk about in a little bit, that talks about aligning this stuff with your enterprise architecture and your assets. And those technology solutions will be more of a focus for us in next week's webinar. So overall, OnePlan supports both strategic execution management and, as we covered last week, strategic portfolio management as a complete solution for the enterprise, meeting the needs of the business leaders, the execution leaders, the IT leaders, and having solutions that support each of those roles in the way that they need to be supported. Now, it's not a standalone solution, even though it has rich capabilities by itself. If we need to have other software development tools, financial ERP system, HR systems, work management tools, etc., we have built-in connector platform that allows you to connect to these other solutions very readily. So with that, I'll turn it over to Paul Estabrooks, who will give you a demonstration of these things in action. Take it away, Paul.
Thank you very much, Jim. So I'm going to walk through today, I'm going to focus on the OKRs, and then I'll end with some of the execution capabilities so that we can show the connection between the two. So I'm in our strategy area within the solution. So here, my strategy, and in here we have articulated corporately a set of objectives that we're trying to reach as an organization. So Jim talked a lot about transparency, visibility, ease of use, all those sort of themes. You can see here, it's very simple. I could come in and say, I want to add a new objective, and I would fill in a form and do so. I'll open up one that's already in flight, and you can see sort of how this is playing out. I have my objective. This happens to be an active objective. So if you think about this, how it might span multiple years. You might be planning your next fiscal's objectives, and you'd mark them as proposed, and then you'd have your active ones, and you can sort of work through both the current and the future, and then ultimately close them when they're done. So it has that life cycle capability to it. So I quickly come in here, who owns it, what business unit does this objective apply to, what's the description of it, start, end dates, what are we gonna, what's our budget or expectation, and then what key results might we link to this? So we might add new items here and create some key results, and I'm gonna dive into some of those in a minute. And likewise, is there a plan, a project, or a program or what have you that is specifically linked to this particular objective and the achievement of it? So this one is associated to this particular objective. And you'll see that later when I get into the execution side a little bit of that cross-referencing back and forth between what are our objectives, what are the key results we're trying to achieve that tell us we've met the objective, and what are the activities, the projects, the programs, and so forth that we are doing to achieve those key results. That linkage up and down, which sort of follows what Gartner is saying. So that's my objective. If I just jump back here quickly and I open this up a little further, you'll see underneath each objective, we have a set of key results. These key results are themselves linked to business units. So achieving an overall objective may require effort and tasks being done by different business units who are collectively and very visibly working towards that overarching objective. Someone owns it, but multiple departments may be participating in it, each with their own piece or pieces based on what they need to accomplish and what key results that they need to achieve. So there's my key results list. Now, if I dive into one, just quickly, you'll see in here, again, it can be proposed, active, or closed. So it could be one we're planning for in a future cycle. It could be the current one we're working on, or it could be one that we completed, last fiscal, if you will. It has an owner and so forth. It has a description. It has a current metric. Right now, we're at 12 out of 20. We're trucking along okay on this particular one. And if I scroll down, you'll see there are 2 initiatives that we have linked to this particular key result. What we've said is this key result will be achieved through those particular initiatives. Again, that linkage up and down across the objectives and the key results. So this is linked to an objective. Obviously, it's underneath it, but it's also tied to a couple of initiatives. If I jump over, here's where I can do my status reporting. So I could come in. This is a status report I have sort of partially completed, and I could hit submit. I may want to update my number here and say that we've actually gotten a little bit further along and so forth. I still think we're on track. We're okay. I could change that if I needed to, and then maybe update my accomplishment and submit my status report. And away it goes. And I have a history of these status reports. I can go look at past ones and see how we are progressing, some ones from last year as we move forward to complete this. So I have my status report. I can status it here. Jim mentioned this because it often comes up with clients who are looking to do this, is potentially, maybe not case studies is a good example, but others we would have in here, potentially the data needed to calculate the current number or the current metric and whether or not we're on target is already in another system. It's being tracked there. It's a sales system, and we're trying to grow year-over-year sales as an example. Then yes, of course, that's why we talked about the integration in OneConnect. That's a prime example where we would go and tap into that data and bring it here so that we can do the status report, perhaps provide some other narrative and other things you may configure on a form like this to add further context and make this much more usable to the executive that needs it. What they want to know is, I set down my objectives, I define what the key results would be, how are we progressing against those, and where it makes sense, we should draw that data in through integration or status it directly in a case like this where it's simply going in and answering a number. So we've talked about some of the other different sort of metrics here. I've got some other views I might want to look at. If I go and look at key results by status, and then I'll open that up. First of all, I've grouped them by whether those that are on track, those are at risk, and those that are off track. I'm just going to move this column over a little bit. You can see here we have the trend lines for these and sort of what are the current metrics. So very quickly, very visually, I can see all of this and understand where are we with my key results. I might want to dig into the ones that are at risk. That's certainly the 2 that are off track. Why is that? What do I know about them? Who do I need to speak to? We know who owns them. maybe get a status report from them on what's going on and what they're doing to get back on track, because the accomplishments of those key results matters to our overall objective. And we want to have that line of sight, that visibility, that transparency throughout the organization and throughout the sort of whole planning cycle. So now we'll quickly look at this from the execution side, and I want to kind of highlight a couple of things. So I want to jump over to the portfolio, and I've got here, this view is fine for what I want to do. I've got a couple of my different projects. So now if I look at this, we're going to turn this around to the other lens. Now you can see here that I have this particular project. It is associated to a couple of the objectives. So it's going to contribute to a couple of the objectives, but it's also tied specifically to 3 different key results. And we've split up its budget as a project across those 3 key results. So now this is where we connect that execution to the strategy. We just said what we wanted to do, and we said what would be the things we needed to accomplish to achieve our objectives. Now when we start to look at those things, what activities are we taking on to achieve those key results? And not every activity is aligned one-to-one to a specific key result. Often they contribute to the accomplishment of a couple of key results. And you can see, so this example has 3. And so we want to understand as best we can, when we invest in this particular initiative, what portion of that applies to the accomplishment of a key result and maybe potentially roll up to the objective. And so here I've gone a 30-50-20 split of my budget across those 3 key results, so that I have that additional visibility into sort of what we're doing and what it's costing us to accomplish a specific objective. What is the size of that investment? And as we've shown in past demos, and we'll show more next week, we can also, this project is also linked to some other things that we want to do, project status reports, prioritization, and so forth. And it can be linked to our enterprise architecture, and that's what we'll dive into next week to look at what applications are tied to and linked to this particular object or this particular initiative. A couple of things I want to end on. So I'll come back here and show, I'm going to go to my project alignment. This particular view is going to show how each project is linked to my different key results. And now I can do some prioritization, because I may look at this, a couple of things I want to know. I've got some that aren't linked to any key results yet. Now, some of them are proposed, so we should probably dig into that more, because why would we be doing this if it wasn't contributing to a key result? So maybe it just hasn't been linked yet, but certainly before it goes active, we should look at that. But what we should also look at is say, maybe we've got some key results down here that's pretty important. Well, let's move that up our list. We got to get that to be a higher priority task that we're doing. So we want to move it up our list. What we might also want to do is understand our budget and budget constraints. So if I come in here and just do a simple prioritization quickly, I won't dive into this in a ton of detail. Let me just zoom this out to quarters quickly. And you can see my different initiatives. And if I move that bar over, I'll still be able to see the key results. As I start to look at how I'm going to find just over 2 million in proposed spend, I have the lens on it to say, well, wait a minute. As I start to make decisions, now the easy ones are the ones that aren't linked anyway. I can go pick those off. Maybe I could say that one's on hold. We'll keep it on hold. And I'm getting closer, but I got more to do. But I'm always doing this with a lens to what key results would I be impacting or not accomplishing if I start to take out some projects here. So I've got one on hold, and if I take that other one out, we're effectively saying we're not likely going to achieve that key result. So what does that impact? What objective does that impact? What does that mean if we don't do that? Obviously, we need to make some hard choices as we try and achieve our budget, but we need to understand very quickly that full visibility into what key results and objectives are we impacting when we make the decisions we're making based on budget constraint, or we can also flip this around and look at it based on resource constraint. As we start to move resources around and say, we've got some over allocations, what is the impact that those decisions are having on our ability to accomplish our strategy? Are we okay with those? Do we need to make different choices? Do we need to reprioritize because we simply have to get there, or do we have to increase investment to make it? what are the decisions we need to make, and we need to be able to do that with visibility in mind. I'll end here where you always should end, I think, is on some reports. So just let me quickly go to here, pull up my dashboard, log into Power BI, and I'll go here. Jim showed some of these, but it's always good to have a look at them. That ability to understand where's my portfolio, how are we doing on progress? We're doing very well on our customer excellence, but we're not really accomplishing what we should in our brand awareness. So maybe we need to refocus our efforts, make sure that resources that are needed to get this done and get it back on track are being deployed, and that's being communicated. Do we want to look at it from key results portfolio? Jim showed this one. I'm a big fan of this one. Same sort of thing. Look, we're mostly there on this one. That one seems pretty safe, but as we go down the list, we have some down at the bottom that are certainly in trouble. Well, what are the projects and the initiatives that we're doing that are tied to those? Are those projects on time? Are they some of the ones that we've had to put on hold? What are the decisions that we've made that impacts this, and what things and steps do we need to take to get them all back on track and make sure that we accomplish things that are set out by leadership in those objectives where we started this story? And with that, Jim, I think I'll leave it there.
All right, thanks, Paul, for the overview. We're doing this incrementally. Last week we talked about strategic portfolio management. Today we're talking about alignment from strategy to execution on those types of things. And just be aware that OnePlan does have a fully functional solution that helps you manage from that strategic level, and also the tools to manage projects at the execution level, the way you would normally want to track those things in detail and as they support those things. So today's demo was more high level about the way that we manage these things at the strategic level and align them, but the full execution pieces are in here as well. So let's summarize and talk about some potential next steps you can take. So today we talked about how strategic portfolio execution management is a critical success factor for today's digital businesses. And it should be aligned throughout the organization so that you can achieve the desired outcomes from top to bottom through the organization. Now, OnePlan facilitates the alignment needed for strategic execution management, and the OKR capabilities that are in there define what you want to do and also measure if you are achieving them through key results. Now, OnePlan provides the most complete set of SEM capabilities on the Microsoft platform. OnePlan is built for the Microsoft cloud. Now, OnePlan provides a variety of solution templates for these different capabilities and customer needs that you've seen today, or even ones that we didn't even cover today. So please feel free to engage us if you have some specific needs you'd like to have met. And these solutions are flexible and easily configured so that you can address a wide variety of use cases. We talked about a traditional OKR strategy approach, but we have other customers that have actually aligned and created other frameworks within OnePlan that are not necessarily the OKR model. So be aware that those things can happen at the strategic level or elsewhere. And as we talked about, OnePlan can integrate with other solutions and tools to bring in data you may already have within the organization. Now, OnePlan is consistently recognized as a leader in this category of project and portfolio management. We have a number of Microsoft Gold certifications, and we were actually named again as their project and portfolio management partner of the year globally this past year. We're also recognized by folks like Gartner and Infotech and Scaled Agile Inc. For our capabilities within this project and portfolio management realm. And we're here to help you to whatever degree you'd like to be assisted. We have a lot of experience in this topic, in this subject matter area. We have the pre-built solutions to meet common business needs, and we have an ever-growing customer base with successful implementations. We have a couple more webinars coming up these next couple of weeks. An extension of this series is Achieving More next week with business architecture and strategic portfolio management, getting a bit into that technology piece that we just alluded to today, talking about things like enterprise architecture and business architecture. And then we're doing a joint webinar with Microsoft on the 23rd called Next Gen Work Management on the Microsoft Project Power Platform, which OnePlan is designed to support. Getting more onto the execution side of things on that particular webinar. So please go to oneplan.ai/webinars and register if you're interested in these topics. Now, you can trial our software. We have a number of different solution options that you can trial for free, and we're happy to support you as you try to get the most out of your trial. So whether it be strategic portfolio management, agile portfolio management, adaptive portfolio management, professional services, or even simple collaborative work management, we have some trial environments up there that you can actually get hands-on with. Also, if you're interested on what it would take to get you from where you're currently at into a solution like this, we do offer a free roadmap workshop to talk to you about your current use of solutions and tools, assess your current requirements and whatever desired future state you have, and to determine, what it would take to migrate or implement into a solution like this, and even help you visualize a phased roadmap for best adoption success as you incrementally crawl, walk, run into something like this, and even what it might cost. And a lot of times you may already own some of the capabilities and tool sets that are needed. So the next steps are either a free trial, a roadmap workshop, and if you're not really that far into it yet, and you just want to see more because we gave you a pretty highly generalized demonstration today, we're happy to schedule a personalized one-on-one demonstration with you. We'd love to engage with you, show you what the rest of the capabilities of the solution are, and talk to you a little bit more about some of your requirements, some of the things you're trying to achieve. So you can reach out to us generally at contact@oneplan.ai. You can look up more information about our solutions and services at oneplan.ai on the web. And with that, I would just like to thank you for taking the time out of your busy days to spend some time with us here. Hopefully you got some value out of this. And at OnePlan, we are invested in success, and we mean in your success. And we're happy to support you. You can reach our general line and contact us at oneplan.ai, or you can reach out to either Paul or I individually if you want to talk to either one of us. You'll be getting a copy of these slides as well as a link to the recording of this presentation, usually within about 24 hours. So thank you very much. And OnePlan wants to provide you one interface, one experience within OnePlan. Have a great day.